Hello, my name's Kate, and I've been teaching primary school students since 1990. It would be nice to think that they've taken a love of learning with them, and I hope they realise that in me, they've always got someone they can turn to for advice or assistance. One of my students, whom I taught in both Year 2 and Year 5, emailed me recently asking for help with structuring a character analysis essay. He's in Year 8 now. I was happy and pleased that he felt that he could ask. I heard him shouting at me across the car park a few weeks later, "Miss Mac, I got an A+." It's always nice when you teach a child for more than 1 year. Given that teaching is largely dependent on building relationships, teaching them twice is a bonus for both you and for them. I teach in the Catholic system, which always seems to have large class sizes and tight budgets. This year, and for the past 5, I'm teaching Year 5-6. I have 28 students, 16 boys and 12 girls. There are 3 other 5-6 classes with similar numbers. This particular cohort has always been difficult in terms of their behaviour and their academic results. I taught them when they were in Year 1-2, and the whole way through they've been active, very boisterous, and have struggled to remain focused. My school is multi-age by philosophy, not because of numbers. As a teaching team, we've had to be particularly firm and organised with this group. Sometimes, with other cohorts, I've been able to give them a little more freedom, but with the group I have this year, it's important to keep firm structures. I've got 2 students with particular learning needs who have to have individual learning plans due to one with ADHD and one with general learning difficulties. I do get an LSO about an hour a day into, I think 4 days a week for those 2 students. Humanities is important for this level. It opens the students' eyes to the world around them. The students I teach are generally very fortunate. Some are well-travelled, but sometimes they can be a bit insular. Humanities helps them understand the lives of other children around the world. They're very interested in learning about the wider world. I love teaching geography and history in particular. This is just a personal preference, but I don't teach these subjects more than others. Our planning ensures that we teach in a balanced manner. We use the Victorian curriculum, and we plan in conjunction with a commercial planning program that our school purchased. It is called MAPPN. It's designed to cover the humanities and science, and it also has some maths and English lessons. We don't use it exclusively. We find our own ideas are often more adventurous and more challenging, but it forms a good base to begin with. The whole school focuses on one key concept per term. We've got 8 in total that we teach over 2 years. They are community, sustainability, social justice, creativity, identity, change, discovery, and connections. Each year, the depth and breadth of learning is extended. For example, in community, the juniors might mainly focus on who and what's in their local community, whereas the 5-6 students would be learning about the global community. I find these concepts are all worthy, but I do find there's too much overlap, and we need to perhaps look at some wider concepts, something quite different. We create rubrics and project briefs for the students to track their learning. At the end of each term, we're given a whole day to plan for the next term. I do a fair bit of reading and personal learning, which ensures I have access to both the general knowledge I need and current teaching practices. At work, we have weekly meetings in which we learn and hone our practices. A constant concern for us is the basics, particularly with a low achieving cohort. Children who can barely spell or punctuate or have a very small bank of known number facts slow us down, and mean that we have to revise concepts and practice skills that children in Year 5, 6 should have already established. We talk about, at our school, we talk about educating the whole child, and we also talk about how well-being is the most important thing on the one hand, but on the other hand, we also get a bit of pressure to make sure our NAPLAN results are good, and we use that as a basis to check that each child has improved or had 12 months growth in 12 months. And that can be, it can be a lot of pressure. An example of a single subject that we might teach, or a single lesson in civics and citizenship, might be where we teach the electoral process. We would be focusing on the nuts and bolts of the process, and we might have a vote and talk about the preferential system, but the lessons on this would generally stay within that domain. The topic of democracy in civics and citizenship does lend itself to persuasive writing. Last time our students wrote letters to our local member asking for further assistance and support with allowing girls to wear shorts or trousers to school. In exploring this topic, we spoke a lot about challenging gender norms, which comes under personal and social capabilities. So in the topic of democracy, it would cross many boundaries. We'd also talk about history of democracy, and there is a lot of writing, and there's also current issues. The students are always interested in global matters and world news. Sometimes it worries them. Ideally, we would take time to discuss and analyse these matters, but with our very crowded curriculum, it doesn't happen as much as we'd like. We do watch BTN each week, that's Behind the News, and there's always plenty of discussion and learning generated from its stories. I think we sometimes struggle to fit in particular learning about special days. For Anzac Day, we read stories and letters and have a prayer service, but it would amount to half a day's lesson. We could easily do much more on it. But we honestly plan so much, and the learning we plan is fantastic. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get it all done, and we never do. Last time the Olympics were on, we neglected them because we were under the pump to get other things done. This is a wasted opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Of course, with camps, book week, outdoor learning, Italian Day, feast days, productions, sacraments and other special days, sometimes it feels like we're barely in the classroom at all.